Hello everyone and welcome back to Fly From Home, and it's another in-depth aircraft review here on this channel, something that we've become somewhat famous for, I like to think. And this week or this month or this video, we've got this beautiful FS Reborn 500, otherwise known as the Piper M500 single turboprop, which is rotating very nicely in the Microsoft Flight Simulator hangar in front of me here. Now, quick introduction to what this video is going to be like. As you can probably see, it's quite a long one. There are a lot of parts to it, and down below in the description you'll find some timestamps so you can skip to the parts of the video that you are most interested in. Alternatively, if you're in for the long haul, settle down, grab yourself a drink and a snack and watch the whole thing. We're going to be going over the looks of the aircraft in terms of its exterior and interior model. We're going to be looking at a full startup. I'm going to go over all of the different features that come with the aircraft. I'm going to be going through a full flight profile, which is going to include general handling, performance checks, circuits, landings, and taxi out and in again. So hopefully hitting all of the salient points with regards to the accuracy of the aeroplane. Finally, I'm going to come to some kind of conclusion and tell you whether I personally find it worth the money or not. Now, quick disclaimer, I wasn't given this aircraft. We do occasionally get things from developers, but this one was bought by myself with my own money. Therefore, if I do give it a good markup at the end, it's not because I've been paid off by a developer or anything like that. Not that I would ever stoop to that kind of level, as I'm sure you'll understand. Now, quick note about myself, for those of you not familiar with the channel. I am a Boeing 737 first officer. I'm an airline pilot, but I was a full-time commercial flying instructor for about 7 years, so my knowledge base and my passion is always, or has always been, GA and light aircraft, and that's always been the kind of basis of this channel, although we do occasionally venture into the world of airliners. I still do a little bit of instructing, so I think I'm in a pretty good position to talk about all kinds of different light aircraft and review them for the channel. That said, I'm going to be bringing in a friend and former colleague to help me with the actual review video, who you will have seen in previous review videos if you do watch them regularly. Right, without further ado, let's get on to the first part of the video. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the real-world aircraft, just to give you a basis for what this model, this flight sim model, is based upon. Now, it's based upon the Piper PA-46, the Malibu Meridian, as it was originally called, which was introduced in 1997. So in 1997, Piper announced its intention to market a turboprop-powered version of the Malibu, which was the original 350 horsepower turbocharged, piston-engined, single pressurized executive transport aircraft, and flew a prototype the following year powered by a Pratt & Whitney PT6A. Now, those of you familiar with aviation will know the PT6 very well. It's a very ubiquitous engine. It's in everything from King Airs to Cessna 406s and blah, 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 blah. There's loads of aeroplanes that use the PT6. Certification was achieved in September 2000 and deliveries began in November that year. Changes made to allow for turboprop power include larger wings and tail surfaces. Now, why you'd need that is because the aircraft is heavier, so it needs a greater amount of lift, and also it produces much greater propeller slipstream and torque effect, so you need more control from a larger rudder surface. In 2009, Piper began offering the Meridian with a 3-screen version of the Garmin G1000, including the Garmin GFC 700 Autopilot as a replacement for the Aventine Integra system. Now, that's not quite what we've got in this model here, but we'll go over that in a second. Piper added wing root fillets to increase the wing area, so that's down here at the roots here. So if we have a little look at this, I should be able to show you those. So these are wing root fillets, these triangular bits here, extending the leading edge of the wing. And an extra 155 kilograms of fuel capacity, a larger tailplane, and reinforced wing spar and landing gear to raise maximum takeoff weight to 2,200 kilograms, or for our viewers stateside, 4,850 pounds. And then a further increase to 5,092 pounds, or 2,310 kilograms from 2003. For a 1,000 nautical mile round trip, block fuel is 447 kilos, very, very reasonable, as most turboprops are, at 233 knots block speed, while its maximum cruise speed is 260 knots. Now, bear in mind, this is indicated airspeed. This is a pressurized aircraft, so the higher it flies, the faster your true airspeed, which is your actual speed through the air, which becomes higher and higher as the air becomes less dense as you climb. So your actual cruise airspeed in this aircraft is certainly getting on towards 300 knots at high altitudes, so it's a quick old aeroplane. It certainly doesn't hang around. Now in 2015, Piper updated how they market the PA-46. It's now called the M class. They are the top of the line Piper aircraft, currently the fanciest and most expensive Pipers you can buy. And the PA-46 line of aircraft as of 2015 is now referred to the Piper M class, which changes the names from Malibu, Malibu Mirage, Malibu Meridian, the classic names, to M350, which is the piston engine version, M500, which we have here, and the newest one, the M600, which is the super duper high horsepower version with even more fancy automation and stuff on it. Maybe we'll see a version of that coming out some point in the future. So the M500 is an updated version of the Meridian. It also has the updated G1000 NXI flight system, which is what we have here, like the M350. So the M350 has it as well. The G1000 NXI system includes an automatic wings level function, which we will be testing, and control override to prevent exceeding the aircraft's flight envelope. Its purpose is to maintain a safe, stable flight condition in the case of pilot disorientation or incapacitation. Now this is a similar system that's fitted to some higher end light aircraft like Cirruses, whereby if you get yourself into an unusual attitude, then you can hit a button, the aircraft will regain wings level, nose level, wings level orientation for safety purposes, to make sure that even if you're completely disorientated, you can still get the aircraft recovered back to straight level, which is very, very helpful. The safety feature is called Electronic Stability and Protection, or ESP. Sounds like something from a car. The M500 also has ADS-B, which is a transponder mode, but no FADEC, so the engine is still manually controlled. There's no digital input in terms of controlling torque output and things like that, so you can over-torque and damage this engine. Can you do it in this model? Well, yes, absolutely you can, and it's quite a complicated failure model in this aircraft, and we'll be demonstrating that later. The M500's fuel tanks can carry 170 gallons US, 644 litres, and the engine burns 37 gallons US at cruise speed. It's a light aircraft with a maximum ramp weight of 2.3 tons. It cruises at 260 knots at an altitude of 30,000 feet, and that's rather high for those of you not familiar with the performance of turboprops. So, what do we have here in the simulator? Well, we have a very, very faithful representation of the M500 in almost every way. I think the exterior model is very, very nice. It's gone down the path of the Coronado type, super shiny, incredibly highly maintained Hangar Queen type exterior model. Leaves no weathering at all, really, on the exterior, which is nice. I mean, I'm sure a lot of real-life M500s are kept in this kind of condition because, I mean, why would you buy something that's probably multiple millions of dollars and then not look after it properly? But inevitably, with general use, you're going to get little bits of dirt and weathering and things like that, so it might have been nice to see little bits here and there. Just a very slight gripe from me. Another slight gripe from me is the boots, the leading edge boots here. So for those of you not in the know, this black area here is an inflatable section, a bit like a tyre inner tube sort of thing, which inflates to break ice off the leading edge of the wing. Now, in real life, this is made out of rubber, which is obviously a different material to what the rest of the wing is made out of, which is aluminium most likely, or maybe some kind of composite. So really, you'd expect to see, sorry, hopefully not making you too dizzy there, you'd expect to see a bit of a split between the textures between the wing surface and the wing leading edge. Now, you can get glossy rubber for this to make it blend in a little bit better, but it wouldn't look exactly the same, and just a little gripe, it just blends in with the rest of the wing a little bit too much. So that's just my personal gripe. But other than that, the exterior models are very, very high quality, and we'll get a little bit closer to it and have a look at it in the simulator lighting as well. Now, there's a number of liveries that come with this, so bear with me 1 second. So the first one's this maroon, gold and white that we've been seeing rotating around for the last minute or so. The next one's blue and white. You know, I'm a big fan of blue and white colour schemes, so we may very well be flying this one in the simulator. Very handsome. This is a cool one. Kind of a almost matte silver, black and blue stripes. Very modern look. This one looks absolutely mental. It kind of reminds me of World War I disruptive pattern camouflage on warships and cargo ships and stuff, which is a bit mad. I don't know if this is based on an actual real aircraft or if it's just pulled from the developer's mind, but it's cool. Nice matte gold effect running down the spine there. Kind of a gradiated blue and turquoise here, which looks nice. You can see it comes across the wings as well. Very shiny. This is a cool one. It's got some graphics all over it, which I don't quite understand, but it does look cool. Again, not sure if this is based on a real aircraft or if the developers just kind of thought this one up. This is a bit of a fun one. It kind of reminds me of that old browser game, Robot Unicorn Attack. Those who know will know. Yeah, very rainbow, very inclusive. And he looks like he's having a good time, doesn't he? Or she. And finally, we've got one for a virtual airline. I believe it's Two-Tone Murphy, who is a streamer on Twitch. I believe it's his virtual airline. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he knows the developer quite well, so they've got quite a good relationship. So he puts a colour scheme in here for him. If anyone wants to make a fly from home livery, hit me up. But yeah, good. Like that, very nice. Right, let's go back inside. Oh, in fact, one small thing before we go inside. You'll notice that a lot of the branding on here says FSR 500. You can actually see the matte version of the gradiated one I showed you earlier. Nice looking. They've got their own house livery with the logos on it and everything. And yeah, it's all gloss. I think it might be mixed matte and gloss. Quite a few liveries, which is always good. This is a nice looking one. Kind of looks like the Piper factory colours. Cool looking stripes with the black underside. This one's a nice bright one. A bit Monster Energy for my tastes, but quite cool. Bright green and grey, silver, something like that. Another variant of the that sort of swooshy arrow colour scheme, this time with a bluey grey. Quite nice, quite reserved colour scheme, this one. And greeny coloured one here. It's quite nice. And we're back to where we started. So, just a quick note. You can see on the branding here, everything says FSR for Flight Sim Reborn on all of the surfaces and things. There's no Piper branding anywhere. Now normally you'd have M500 on here, or the Piper logo somewhere on the tail or something like that on the factory colour schemes. Now I'm not sure if that's because the developers couldn't get the copyright to put Piper's logo on things. Maybe they wouldn't give it to them, so they've just removed all of the Piper logos, and you'll see that inside the cabin and on the yokes and all sorts of places where you'd normally have a Piper logo. Now good old FS.to, flightsim.to liveries, and there's already a mod on there which will change all of the FSR logos for Piper logos if you want that little bit of added realism. I don't blame the devs. Obviously it could be a legal issue, but if you do want to change that and up your realism a little bit, then there is a mod already available for that. The only reason I've not installed that is I wanted to give you a factory standard product for the review, but I will be probably installing that once I've finished recording this. Alright, so that's the exterior. Let's have a look inside. Now, this is your main cockpit panel. As you can see, it's got the ubiquitous Garmin G1000 NXI. Or I don't know if you'd actually call this a G3000, because obviously there's 3 screens to this, but it's still got the smaller PFD, hasn't it? So it's probably still a G1000, but I think the 3000 has 3 of these really big ones here. But yeah, very nice interior. Again, very, very clean. Not really any wear and tear or anything like that, which, you know, even a very new aeroplane is likely to have little bits of dirt here and there. It might be nice to see a little bit of weathering, maybe just a slight nil. Not an awful lot to look at in here, really, as are most kind of super modern glass panel aeroplanes. They're kind of quite basic inside, a bit like a modern car, I guess, like a Tesla that just has that weird iPad thing in the middle of the dashboard. Maybe not quite to my tastes, but such is progress. We've got flat levers, throttles. You can see there's just a throttle and a condition. There's no prop lever here. Pitch wheel. We've got a little keyboard for controlling or inputting things into the Garmin system. I believe this isn't operational at the moment, but it is on the list of things to add as the product goes forward, so there are updates planned for this. It's going to get better and better as time goes on, which is always nice to see developers updating and continuing to support their products. So there we go. We've got circuit breakers, loads of circuit breakers in here, all of which work. We also have an EFB from launch, PMDG. So congrats for that. And switches up there. Very, very nice looking interior. Let's see if I can swooshes into the back. There we go, very plush, not the kind of cabin that I'm used to dealing with. There we go. And of course doors and all that kind of stuff all opens, which I will show you once we are in the simulator. You can see nice little placard at the back there telling you how to use the cargo net in the cargo area in the rear of the aircraft. The table, all this stuff kind of comes out, and there's some really cool animations and things like that, which obviously I will show you once we're in the sim. So speaking of which, I'm going to draft in my colleague and see you in the simulator. Right, okay everyone, here we are in the simulator at lovely Doncaster, where we always do these review flights from. Got the aircraft on the ground hooked up to ground power and all that other nice stuff that I'm going to run through in a second, show you just what the aircraft's got with it in terms of ground equipment. In terms of the weather, we've got a lovely ISA standard day, so that's 15 degrees temperature on the ground, no wind, no weather of any kind or anything like that, and standard pressure of 1013 hectopascals or 2.9 and 9.2 inches of mercury if you are that way inclined. Now we're going to do a standard review flight, which those of you familiar with the channel, I'm sure you've seen it a million times, but we'll run through it as we go through it anyway. Now, first of all, I'd like to introduce my colleague who's been nice enough to give up some of his spare time to come and help me with this review. I'm sure fans of the channel, you'll have heard his voice before on some of our most popular review videos, but for those of you who've not heard him before, Nathan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. I'm Nathan, and I've been on a few videos before. I give some background on myself. I fly a King Air for a living, and I've got about 12 to 1500 hours on different types of PT6 engines, so to give me my experience towards this aircraft. I've not flown in this particular other type of aircraft, but I have flown Cessna 406 with turbines, and I've also done a little bit in a TBM 930 as well, so kind of similar performance for everything. I apologise tonight, I've got a bit of a cold, so do excuse a few sniffles and for a bit of man flu, but I'll try and give you the best insight with to this video and make it more interesting as normal.
Okay, cool. So yeah, Nathan, thank you very much, mate, for coming in, especially with your cold, with your medical condition. It's especially gallant of you to come along and give us a hand. Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to need all of your. What was that? Sorry.
No poorly ears for this flight. So
oh yeah, of course, yeah. Just watch out for the barrow trauma.
Yeah.
Right. So we're going to need all of Nathan's help with this one because I don't really know what I'm doing. My experience, as most of you will know, is light aircraft and the Boeing 737 with a tiny bit of Dash 8 thrown in. So nothing remotely similar to this, but I'll do my best for you. First of all, we'll just go through what this aircraft can do on the ground because it is quite significant. You can see we're hooked up at the moment. Everything's turned off, but we've got can hear the cooling fans running on the Garmin avionics equipment. And we can see one of the PFD is powered up here because we're connected up to the ground power. Now, if we go over to the ground ops tab on the nice little EFB that we've got here, we can see all the different things we can select here, including a red carpet for our very important passengers, the GPU, which is hooked up, the security cones, chocks, covers on the propeller, and the pitot covers there. So obviously you'd have to, as part of your pre-flight procedure, go around and pull all these things off, because the most embarrassing thing you can possibly do is melt your pitot cover onto the pitot head when you're trying to test your pitot heater by forgetting to take that thing off. So we'll get rid of all these things. Now you can load up you can do a pre-flight based on flight plan. There we go. So you can import a SimBrief flight plan into here, which will give you the correct fuel and number of passengers that you've decided to take on SimBrief, and you can then have it loaded in, and it will load real time. So a little truck will drive up, fill you with fuel, a little Range Rover will drop your VIPs off, and all the rest of it, and they can walk up the red carpet. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, so all that fancy stuff. Obviously, we know we're doing a review flight today, so our passengers are going to magically apparate into the cabin, in the words of Harry Potter or whatever it is. But just bear in mind that you can do all that, and it all adds to the realism and the immersion and all that kind of thing. So I'm going to pull all these things away apart from the GPU and the chocks, so we are ready to go. And we are going to add in some passengers. That's an average sort of human being weight. Maybe they're slightly light, but there you go, someone's a bit heavy. And we'll throw some fuel in as well. And you can see there, total weight, we're a little bit over because it's gone into the red, so I'm just going to pull some of the passengers out and just make sure we are within our, there we go, very precise weighing passenger, 20 kilos, it's a baby clearly. Right, and then if we hit load instant, then there we go, it's all filled up and ready to go. You can see we've also got a cabin door here, so we can pull the cabin door open, and I mean, that's not anything new really, is it? But everything back in the cabin is all clickable, so you don't have to use the EFB to control those things. You can just move yourself back into the cabin and click any of these things. Same thing with any of the lights, or indeed, there we go, the nice fancy coffee table there, which we'll demonstrate later. You can actually serve drinks and food on, which is really going above and beyond. We've got the blinds and all that kind of stuff. So very, very in-depth representation of the cabin you can see already, I'm sure.
The lights work as well, Kitty?
What's that, sorry?
The lights work as well?
Yeah, all the roof lights work. In fact, you turn them on from down here. So there we go, look, you can see the roof spotlights going on. Yeah. So it's all there. It's all there, mate. So there we go. So that's the ground stuff. Cabin comfort, you can see here. So we're going to demonstrate this later. You can see our passengers are getting hungry, thirsty, and they are melting, which sounds absolutely horrific. So this is a really advanced version of the good old little mini game of how hot's your cabin that we had in aircraft like the 310 and the 414. So this is a really clever version. So you get to serve food and drinks and be a trolley dolly, basically. No offense to any cabin crew watching the video, of course. So there we go. So that's that. We'll have a little look at that later. Maintenance, so you can look at the health of your various elements here, and you can see that it tracks pretty much every major element of the aircraft: hydraulic pumps, inverters, flat motors, the boots, the tires, the brakes, everything, even tire pressures and things like that. Lights. It will. You can see that I've been flying this airplane around. It's been racking up a bit of time on the parts, and they will fail as they sort of time out, which is really, really clever. We've seen some pretty advanced maintenance features on flight simulator aeroplanes now in the past, and this is certainly up there with the best of them. So it really sort of puts you in the shoes of an owner operator, keeping track of all your parts and things like that. There's also an extensive failure system. You can turn all this on and off on here. And believe me, it is pretty easy to wreck stuff if you don't do it properly. Hint, hint, I may have done it in the past to myself and blown up a bunch of starter motors. So I'll be relying on Nathan to tell me the correct way to start this engine up today. And hopefully we won't be doing a starter motor swap on the ramp. So you can see I've got everything turned on, so if you break something, then it's gonna affect us. There's a little help page on here, so if you're stuck if you think something's wrong, you can quickly go into here. There's also a really extensive manual that Nathan's got open and ready to go, just in case we need it.
I have.
But don't worry if you are sort of, obviously, although we've not flown this type of aircraft, being a pilot in real life is a bit of an advantage when you come into these really sort of complex and highly detailed flight simulator add-ons. But if you're not a pilot in real life, and maybe you know you've only flown light aircraft or something like that, don't sort of feel daunted about taking on something like this. You can definitely get your head around it because the documentation is really, really good. On the settings here, you can accelerate the wear and tear if you really want to. If you really want everything to wear out on you for some reason. There are automatic action cameras which will activate at various different times. If you want, so if you want your co-pilot inside the vertical cockpit, you can sit next to this handsome gentleman here. And it will go up, like for engine startup, it will focus on the nose of the aeroplane, and you'll get the engine run up and all that kind of cool stuff. So yeah, very, very... Oh, you can even choose which type of vehicle delivers your passengers, either a limousine or an SUV. That's how in-depth this airplane is. It's very... they've thought of everything, put it that way. Needless to say, there's the SimBrief integration. I've already got Doncaster up here on the ground chart, just in case. And we can even have a go at a visual overlay approach using the Garmin avionics when we get to Nottingham at the other end. So there we go. So little quick overview of what we're going to do on the flight then. So we're going to take off from here. It doesn't really matter which runway we use because there's no wind, but we're just going to take off at the closest runway, which is going to be 20. Climb straight ahead, and we'll take her up to about. I think we'll probably go up to about 10,000 feet just to show the pressurization and everything working. Then we'll probably descend a little bit, do some general handling. So we've got some pretty cool features on the aircraft in terms of unused latitude recovery and things like that we can demonstrate or check that it works properly, shall we say. We'll do some stalls, various different configurations, check what kind of stall performance the aircraft's got. We've got a good track record with losing control of aircraft on this channel, haven't we, Nathan? So managed to get to an unrecoverable spin in the Cessna 414, so we'll see if we can do the same thing this time.
In the business, we call this foreshadowing.
And then I'll show off some of the nav equipment on the aircraft, which is obviously very, very capable. And we'll do maybe a GPS overlay visual approach into Nottingham, and then fly some circuits, and then we'll come to some kind of conclusion if you're not asleep by then. So there we go. Right, Nathan, are you ready, sir?
I am. Do you want to do a external power start?
I don't know. What do you reckon? Should we do an external power start?
Use connected. I've got a checklist for that. Let's give it a go if you want.
Let's give it a go. Let's do it.
Okay. So skip a couple of steps and make sure the battery switch is off, wherever that is.
Yeah, the battery switch is off.
Okay, connect the GPU, which has been done by the sim already.
Yeah.
Voltmeter, jack stable between 24 and 29 volts.
Okay, so volts, we've got 28 volts.
Very good. fuel pump switch to manual.
Okay, so we're going to take the fuel pump switch to manual. Yeah.
Left-right fuel pump on CAS messages on the PFD.
I think it probably is on the PFD, but I can't see it because it's being covered up by by
Of
by
course,
that inset. I don't know if we can get rid of that inset. Let me see.
And the CAS option.
Where's that, mate?
Sometimes you can expand that little CAS box
This
with a
box
button.
here.
Yeah. Obviously, you know G1000 slightly better than I do.
Not. I mean, the version of G1000 I used to use a bit old for that kind of clever stuff. You just get rid of the. If you get rid of the inset, then it should be okay.
Oh well, it'll be fine.
Oh, map off. There we go. Right, so we've got left-right fuel pump on.
Perfect. Okay, so ignition switch to manual.
Okay, stand by. Ignition switch to manual.
And we should get the ignition caption come on the CAS, which you can hear ticking.
Yeah, we got it. We can hear it clicking away.
Okay, so start mode switch to auto.
Start mode switch is in auto, yeah.
And lighting, push start switch.
Oh god, here we go, right. Fingers crossed. Can hear it running up. Right, so this is the key point now. At what point do I throw fuel in here?
So anywhere between 12 and 15%.
Okay, okay,
Have
well,
you run out? Sounds good. I mean, max altitude is 1,000 degrees, limited to 5 seconds.
okay, so keep an eye on our ITT, here it is. So we're making sure it doesn't go into 1,000 degrees. Looks like it's leveled up about 700 and it's coming down now. Looks like we've got a good start.
Okay, so NG's above 56%,
Which it is, yeah.
and the CAS message can be extinguished.
Yeah, I've just got ignition on, Peter heat off, takeoff config, yeah, usual stuff.
Very good. And then start mode switch, go to push manual. Actually, no. Let me check that. Check this a little bit confusing.
Okay.
Is the turbo starter off if it's not off already? I think it's up.
Yeah, starter's automatically cut out.
And then fuel pump switch to auto,
Fuel pumps auto,
and ignition switch is off.
ignition switch off.
And then we should have basically stable at 63% roughly.
Yeah, we've got 64%, yeah.
Okay. 1200 RPM minimum.
Yeah, near enough.
Oil pressure minimum 60 psi. Now we've put the battery switch to on.
Okay, battery switch coming on.
Disconnect the external power unit.
Right, so there's obviously a very brave ramp attendant outside. So they're going to slide in and pull the GPU away on the chocks. Helps if you have a really long string on them. There we go. Okay, it's disconnected.
And then the gen switch to on.
Gen switch is on.
Make sure we've got 28 volts.
Right, let's see. So we got 28 volts, yeah.
And then the alt switch to on. Whatever that is.
And then, oh, not avionics, sorry. Alternator, there we go, got it.
Right.
Okay.
That's an alternator. There's normally just a generator.
Yeah, it's got a generator and an alternator.
Very strange. Must be I think a lot of the single engine turboprops do have dual either alternator or generators.
Yeah.
And I don't think TBM has one as well. Just for electrical redundancy if you have an engine out, I suppose.
Yeah.
Or yeah. Just the good thing about a twin turboprop is you've got two generators for your system if needed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but you've not got that redundancy on a single one.
This is electric flapping gear, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the external start checklist complete.
Beautiful. Right. So I suppose we should get the avionics on and set something up, shouldn't we? Really?
Absolutely.
Right. Let's hit that switch. So this is the G1000 NXI system. So this is all very familiar to anyone in Microsoft Flight Simulator at the moment, because this is developed by Working Title, who do all the Garmin avionics. So this is a really, really capable system. It can do loads of stuff, and they're adding things to it all the time as well. This is also a custom representation, so there's all sorts of custom Piper M500 instruments on the side here, so you can see obviously all the engine instrumentation, but you've also got cabin pressure, electrical, vacuum, which is kind of funny. I don't really get why we need a vacuum system, because I can't see a single analog instrument anywhere on this aircraft, but we've got one anyway. Rudder trim, flat position.
The boots will need vacuum.
That's it, of course it is. Yeah, it's the boots. Yeah, I'm just being stupid, aren't I? There we go. Yeah. So all your important stuff is all in one place, which is fantastic. It's a great thing about a glass cockpit. All the important stuff is there right in front of your face where you need it. So I'm just going to put a very, very basic flight plan in. Now the downside of this is that it doesn't auto-populate where you are. In real life, this would automatically come up with EGCN, Echo Golf Charlie November, which is where we are at the moment. Sadly, it doesn't do that, so you're going to have to put it in manually every time, which is a little bit annoying, but it's not the end of the world. There we go, you can see Doncaster, Sheffield, and we're going to take runway 20. That's in. I've got no en route waypoints, we're just going to pop in Nottingham at this end. That's in, ready to go. So that's a very basic route. Obviously, if we needed waypoints and airways and things like that, you just pop them in the en route box. It's very easy and straightforward to do, and I'm sure if you had to play around with any of the Garmin cockpit aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator, you'll have a very good idea on how to do all of that kind of stuff. I'll try and demonstrate some of the slightly more advanced features, like I said, when we get onto the approach phase. So we'll come off the flight plan page now. We'll give ourselves, we'll set the bugs up, so we'll go up to 10k initially.
Yep.
And you can see the GPS CDI has already aligned itself with runway heading, because it's clever like that. Or nearly runway heading, I think it's about 198. So we'll leave it on that. And I think that's good. Right, we've got a before taxi checklist, Nathan?
We have.
Okay,
So,
let's do it.
before taxi, avionics we should put on, MFD event put on. CAF messages, is there any illuminated?
Yeah, we've got PISA heat off and takeoff config.
Okay. Autopilot pre-flight test.
Okay, yeah, this is a good one to do, I suppose. So what you'd be testing on the autopilot is just to make sure that it does something sensible when you turn it on. So if we pop it on there, so if we pre-select heading and alt, and then we hit the autopilot master switch, you might have to put the yaw damper on as well, or maybe you can't on the ground. It's flashing at us. Anyway, so that should be autopilot. So if we turn the heading bug, you can see the yokes are following the heading bug, which is exactly what you'd see in real life, which is lovely. And then you'd probably put it in, you try vertical mode, so let's put it in VS and see if it will follow yoke up and down. You see the trims moving there, so it's winding. Yokes. You normally, again, maybe this is something peculiar to the M500, but normally you'd see the yoke move forward, then you'd see the trim move.
Yeah, I think it's a bit like this Cessna 172, where I think it's already up to stop.
Right.
That would be fly.
Quite possibly.
The aerodynamical horn. I think it's it can actually go neutral until you get airspeed over the tail.
Right.
I believe, anyway.
Right.
So it's naturally forward heavy.
Right, I get it. So it's basically steered by the trim when there's airflow over it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, well done then, because they've clearly shown that correctly. And so we've got pitch up, pitch down, turn left, turn right. So you've got all your basic functions. Then you check you could overpower it. So you basically grab the yoke and make sure you can sort of overpower the strength of the autopilot, which you can't do, unfortunately. But what we can do is check our disconnect button works. So we hit autopilot disconnect, and we make sure everything disconnects, and we've got full and free control of the aircraft again. So that's the autopilot test complete.
Okay, Peter switch on. Check it. Basically turns off the caption.
Okay, cool. Peter heat, so that's up here. So we stick that on. Yeah, captions are gone.
Good.
Back off again. And captions back on again.
Okay.
I suppose we could check the, if we were smart, we'd have checked the load on the generator as well and check that spiked up. I'm sure it did. Watch the video back.
Absolutely. Taxi and recognition lights is on.
right. So we'll stick our recog lights, which are the wingtip lights. So, in
Not
fact,
something you normally use. I was actually
you wouldn't normally use it in the daytime, would you? Usually.
I don't know.
No.
I've
Okay.
used tactical, but records would use normally up to 10,000 feet, and then off after that, but I suppose just how this aircraft set up. So
Yeah, I'll stick the taxi light on. You can see. Just a quick note on the lights. They are very, very good on this aeroplane. So you can see the taxi light is this one on the nose here, but you've also got the nice LED lights on the wingtip, which are very, very well modelled. So it's always good to see a good set of lights on an aeroplane. Right, there we go. I digress.
yeah, cabin climate controls as required, so at least passengers nice and cool.
Oh
They
yeah,
should
of
get
course. So they're still complaining about it being too hot. Let's have a look. They're getting very hungry and thirsty, and it's so hot they want to jump out of the aeroplane. That's not great. So let's give them some air conditioning. Put the fan on. There we go. And it's on full cool at the moment, so that should be cooling them down. Hang on. Let's get the fan on. There we go. Right, we'll give them some aircon. We'll just have to remember to turn that off before we take off. And then I'm getting. Do we turn the bleed air on now, or do we do that a little bit later?
You don't know, it's actually a few steps later to get this, but yeah, you want to right now.
Yeah, let's get the bleed air on and turn the cabin comfort control to norm, and that should start controlling that. And obviously, if you don't remember to turn the bleed air on, then there's nothing to pressurise the cabin, so that would be a big no-no for pre-takeoff. Right, ready to go?
Radio on it, they've got set, the flap verify retracted. I suppose that's after the external check, where you would get the flap to go down.
Yeah.
Slightly pre-flight. Elevator trim set to takeoff range.
Okay, so yeah, we've been messing around with it on the autopilot, so you can see the autopilot's left it quite a long way up. So, in fact, I'll do it on my, there we go, on my Bravo. It's a little bit quicker to do it that way, so put it in the takeoff zone there.
Rudder trim, we've got set 2-3 right trim, green mark.
Yeah, so this is something that's peculiar to our really powerful single-engine turboprop. You obviously get an awful lot of yaw on takeoff, similar to like a World War II fighter plane. So there's a little green zone on the trim indicator here for takeoff, and it shows you where you're supposed to have your rudder trim. So we'll set it to there. There we go.
Okay, bleed air lever, done. Cabin pressure can switch to verify position, so make sure that's done.
Yep.
That'll be starting faster. ECS cabin comfort switch normal.
Yep.
Good.
Done that.
Destination elevation is set.
I think it's automatic in this version. I think, anyway. You used to have to do it on the timer ref page, I think. But yeah, no, it's. I think it's all automatic on this. As soon as you set a destination in the G1000, it just sets it automatically.
Yeah, I think instead of a timer reference, I think that's only for the airports that aren't database. So if you want somewhere like Bagby, some sort of restaurant or then you might need to assess it otherwise. But I believe like most locations, as long as it's a normal AKO airport, you can be in there. The normal and test switch test. Ah, there you go. Up left of the emergency.
Left of the emergency. Got it.
Stop.
Oh, that's attractive store warn, isn't it? Lovely lady's voice. There we go.
Altimeters set.
Yeah, altimeters are set standard.
And then parking brake release. Ready for taxi.
Away we go. Right. So they've gone to quite a lot of effort with this aircraft to model turboprop taxiing characteristics properly. So this is something that you'll know a lot better than I will, Nathan, because the Dash 8 would sort of automatically go into disc mode, so you could just control the speed on the throttles, but I'm having to kind of ride the brakes at the moment. So
yeah, so in real life we'd actually be riding the beta so
yeah,
the speed.
so I can't do that. I can kind of go into beta a little bit here to control the speed.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's normal operation for all of these systems really. Some with like a ground mode, some of them, some have literally just use a little bit of beta. It all depends on the aircraft really. You'll easily do 40 knots if you didn't touch any beta at all or any brakes with the power idle.
Yeah, because you can see there when I pulled it into beta, it stopped speeding up. So once you've got a taxi speed you're happy with, just get it into beta, and it will just kind of hold that speed for
Absolutely, yeah.
So there you go. It avoids wearing your brakes out, which of course on this aeroplane is a thing. So
Yeah, or you've got a prop running, so you might as well use
yeah,
it as the basic way to think about it. You're not using really any more fuel, a tiny bit, but it's definitely cheaper than the brake you need to use the brakes all the time.
yeah, it's cheaper than replacing your brakes all the time, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Right, here we go. So we'll pull up here at the holding point, set the parking brake. Right.
Do you want to do an engine run up as the first flight of the day, or do you want to go straight into the full takeoff yet?
Let's do an engine run-up, given that it's the first flight of the day and it's also a full review, isn't it? So may as well test it all.
So engine run up, checklist. Parking brake set,
Check.
and then a power lever to 1900 RPM.
Okay, so it's going to rev things up a little bit now.
Yeah, so overspeed governor test switch, push and hold.
Okay.
You should observe a 60 RPM drop.
Okay, so overspeed governor, and we're looking for an RPM drop. Let's zoom out a little bit. So push that. There we go. There's the RPM drop,
Release,
and the RPM's gone back up.
then power lever to idle.
Power lever's coming idle.
I'm going to have first lockout switch, hold, minimum 5 seconds.
Okay, reverse lockouts. That's the one there. So we're going to hit that.
And then power lever recharge, confirm the beta and reverse is not available.
Okay, so we pull it into reverse and assume that nothing happens now.
Yep. I think basically, I believe that's how we put in reverse in flight.
Yeah. There we go. So we can see it's not going into reverse there.
Good.
That's working.
Then the generator switch off, confirm the alternator status on the load.
Okay, so generator's off. See the alternator's spiked up.
Okay. Then generator switch back on again.
Generator switch back on, and you see the balance back out now.
Very good. Okay, so after that, full takeoff check.
Awesome, let's do them.
That's quite an easy one.
Yeah, pretty quick, isn't that?
You can probably do it on the taxi to get used to the aircraft.
Yeah.
Okay, full takeoff seats, armrests and belts, just lockers. I'm fairly strapped at home.
Yeah.
Everybody else.
Armrests are down. Let's hope our passengers have they done melting yet? Well, they're hungry and thirsty, but they've stopped melting. So I'll tell you what.
That's good.
Let's put the air conditioning into the auto zone here, and turn the fan off for takeoff. We'll leave the vent fan on, but we'll take the air conditioning off for takeoff.
Okay. Generator and alternator switches to on.
They're both on.
Bleed air lever in. I believe that's obviously a lever. In the
Yeah.
takeoff.
Bleed air's in.
ECS cabin comfort to normal.
ECS cabin comfort set normal.
Fuel temperature check the wind limits.
Ooh, okay. Let's see, where's fuel temperature? Oh yeah, there we go, 15 degrees. Yeah, that's normal.
That sounds not on the freeze. Fuel pump switch to manual.
Fuel pump switch is in manual.
Ignition switch to manual.
Ignition switch is manual.
Pitot heat on.
Pitot heat, and I'm assuming stall heat as well on as
Yeah,
well.
no, I'm a operation. Yeah. Ice protection as required. Looks nice out there, so don't need any proper heat on, I imagine.
Yeah, it should be okay.
Taxi and record light switch as required. Just pop them all on now. Line up.
Yeah, I'll pop them on lineup.
One of these checklists where it's developed for the aircraft rather than for a commercial operation. So a little bit more long-winded than
Yeah.
actually be like. For you aspiring commercial pilots out there. Landing light and nav lights on. And strobes, put them all on. It's all separate, whereas it would be one checklist item.
Yeah, lights config, isn't it? So we'll do lights as we line up. That should be fine.
Okay. Flight instruments check.
Yeah, so we've got CDI lined up with the runway. We've got 1013 set. We've got 10,000 feet runway heading on the bug, and the departure's just straight out.
CAS PFE best to consider.
Okay, ignition on, stall heats inhibit because the weight on wheel switch, and fuel pump left and right on.
Okay. Engine instruments check.
In the green.
Radios, AVNX transponder set as required.
Okay, so we'll do transponder now. So we'll go on to out reporting, and we'll make sure we've got traffic on here. Yeah, we do. So I can't see anything on the TAS, traffic alert system.
Okay, flaps set between 0 and 20 degrees. A long runway like this, I believe flaps 0 is normally used.
Yeah, we'll go with flaps 0.
Elevator rudder trim set.
Check.
Flight control still on 3.
Okay, so left hand down, left side up, other side opposite, right hand down, right side up, other side opposite, full aft, full forward. And I don't know if you've got a cast string nose wheel on this or not, so I'll test the rudder as we taxi out, just in case we don't.
I can't remember actually what they are on this. And that's checklist complete.
Beautiful. Right, good to go then. Right, so let's pop park and brake off, line up on the runway. So as we line up, we'll do our lights. Now I need to make sure we put the prop back into base, or otherwise we're going to come screaming around that corner at a million miles an hour, which is a little too much like a certain blue and white airline. Don't want to go too. We don't really want to go there, do we?
Not today.
Right, so there we go. We can see we've got that lovely synthetic vision on the PFD, which I tend to find very useful, very fancy. I've never flown an aeroplane with anything like that. Has your King Air got that, Nathan?
Yeah, the 2 of them have. Yeah, 2 out of the 5 we have got that. It's really useful. You get you out of trouble if you needed it.
Yeah, yeah.
It occasionally shouts at you saying there's not a runway, but you're absolutely sure there is a runway. You're looking at it. So there's a few glitches. It works quite nicely, and it's good for your extra situational awareness, especially when you go into places like Geneva, Zurich, anywhere high terrain around. It's quite nice to see you're in the right place, as well as the guidance of ATC as well in the background.
Oh, awesome. No, that's really cool. Maybe one day I'll fly an aeroplane that fancy. Right, okay, so we all ready to go?
We are.
Okay, so we've got a rotate speed of 85 knots, we've got an initial climb of 110, and then we're going up at 125 in a cruise climb. So I'm going to let Nathan run the numbers on that as we're climbing up, so we can check it against the book figures and make sure the aircraft's doing what it should be doing.
Yep.
One quick note, don't firewall the throttle on an aircraft fitted with a PT6 like this one, unless it's got some kind of fancy FADEC system, which I think the TBM has, the newer version has. With an aircraft like this one, if you push the throttle all the way to maximum, you're going to over-torque the engine. So you've got to be carefully looking at the engine instrumentation there, and basically treating it like an old-school turbo Arrow or something like that. You've got to kind of walk the throttle forward to keep it out of the red zone. So what I'm going to be doing is setting a sort of nominal power setting, allowing the aircraft to get going and allow the ram effect to sort of take effect. And as that happens, the torque will slowly sort of rise as the aircraft gains speed, and I'll just trim a little bit more power in as we go. So that's
just a tip, if you set the maximum torque is 13 pounds.
Okay.
I reckon if you set about 1,200 pounds on the torque, it should simulate a ram rise, and you'll probably be around about the max takeoff power by the time you get to your rotate speed.
See, this is the kind of knowledge that you can't buy, isn't it? This is this is why we brought you along. Right, so we're going to go for 1,200, and it should go up to 1,300 as the ram riser goes.
Yeah. I'll see that exactly what the figures are on this one, but it should be around there.
Should be around there. Right, okay, let's give it a go. Right, so brakes coming off, power's coming up. Even with that rudder trim in, we're still getting quite a lot of yaw, so you've got to be quite lively on the pedal, especially at low speed. Looking for 1,200 on the torque, on the little top gauge there, which we've about got. There we go, just there. So if I leave the throttle alone now, it's should just sort of climb up little bit by little bit. Looking at the air speeds. And rotates. Away we go. Whee, maybe not. A little bit more back pressure required than I thought. Okay, positive raise climb coming in now, so gears coming up. Pitch for 110. I probably should have pressed the toga button so I could get my flight director up, although it's not really doing a great deal.
Yeah, and the no run rise scene on that Takeoff.
No, I didn't see that. It was it just kind of stayed steady at 1,200, didn't it?
Yeah. I know other things on the sim have something like that, so it's not a limitation.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely seen that happen on the Black Square King Air, does it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Right, so I'm going to get rid of that flight director because that's not a great deal of help. I'm just going to use the, there's a little flight path vector. I don't know what the proper name for it is in Piper terms, but that's what it's called in the Boeing world. So I'm just going to use that at about 10 degrees. That's going to be VY at the moment. So you can see we're going up about 1,800 feet per minute right now. So it's a bit quick. So we're going to pitch down and go for 125. In fact, the flight director might have been trying to give me 125 there. We'll see anyway. If I stick the yaw damper on and then put it in flight level change and then tell it to give me 125, that might be about right. Right. So we'll let it settle down and then we'll see what kind of rate of climb we get. And we're expecting to see about 1,000. Is there any specific power setting on that graph, Nathan?
Yeah, just max ITT of 770 degrees. That's maximum, and also max NG, which is the red line, I believe.
Okay.
101.7. And in a turboprop like this, as you climb, and any turboprop, I suppose, the air gets thinner. You'll lose a bit of torque by increasing the power lever. So naturally, you can be pushing the power lever up as you climb, and because there's less air, thinner, the ITT will rise. So you'll get to the point where you're ITT limited. So then torque starts to bleed away, but you keep in the max 770 degrees on the ITT. Kind of how it works. Then you also, then after that, you get the max NG, which is 101.7 on this aircraft.
Okay.
And at that, the centrifugal compressor is actually spinning at 38,000 RPM. That's full VTEC mode, as like I say, the topless of it hands around you. And yeah, definitely to bear in mind.
So we've got 125 here. Nathan, do you want to run the numbers and give us a rate of climb that we should be getting for this?
Yes, I've got you sent me earlier. Just for everyone at home as well, this is the first time I've seen this airplane. So my opinion, as you see it today, is as I see it with you guys. So
yeah, precisely. Yeah, which is kind of what I wanted as well from this. So you can derive your own opinion from it, Nathan. Don't be swayed by anything I've said.
yes, the cruise climb. If you want to go to this 140 knots.
140, okay.
What you put 20,000 feet. I would have to get to 20,000. You don't need 125, 30,000. The power leads back a little bit. And what I reckon we can see between 1,000 and 1,500 feet.
Between 1,000 and 1,500 was that, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, so we're just under 140 now. We're getting 1,100.
Just let it accelerate to that and finish back again. I imagine. Probably.
Still accelerating a bit there. Yeah, that's 1,500. Maybe a little bit over. Maybe a little bit sporty. Maybe 1,600.
Yeah.
It's about in the zone, isn't it? It's about there.
That's what I expect of an aircraft of that nature as well.
Yeah, yeah. So it about makes sense to have something in this sort of zone for an aircraft like this. Right, should we do an after takeoff checklist?
I'll try. Maximum to power climb. So
yep, set.
Fuel pumps to auto.
Okay, fuel pump is coming auto.
Ignition auto.
Ignition to auto.
Landing light off.
Landing light is coming off.
Taxi recognition lights, that's fine.
Okay, taxi lights off.
Ice protection is required.
Not required, it's lovely and clear.
Okay. Transponder verify out mode.
Get 7,000 alts.
And after that, it's complete.
Beautiful, right. So we're about to go through flight level 100. So I don't know about your operation, Nathan, but flight level 100 is always, well, we do two sort of pressurization checks. The first one is when the pilot not flying will do the after takeoff scan flow. So we do a sort of scan around the cockpit, and that involves having a look at the pressurization and make sure the packs are on and all that kind of stuff. And then we do another one at 10,000 feet, so we do a flight level 100 check. So if we do a flight level 100 check, we've got a cabin altitude of, at the moment, absolutely nothing. So we're on the ground at the moment in the cabin, which is handy. Cabin rate of climb is 0. So that's indicating that differential pressure, you can see the delta P is 4.53 at the moment, which is in the green zone. So we can see we're pressurizing, and the passengers are nice and comfortable by there. Speaking of which, should we serve them some drinks or something? We can,
let's do that.
We can tell them to, in fact, there we go. Tell them to put the seatbelts on, which perhaps should have done that before takeoff.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to serve them some coffee and snacks. There we go. That'll cheer them up, I'm sure. There we go. And you can see back there, you can see they've got a croissant and some multicoloured biscuits and a cup of coffee on the table. So yeah, that's going to go all over the place when we start doing general handling, but for now they're happy. Right, okay, so we've done our pressurization check, we've made it up to 10,000 feet, the performance all checks out, although I must say I haven't touched the throttle at all, and we're still at about 1235 foot-pounds, so unless... Ooh, hang on, we're barber poling it here. Steady on. Maybe should have throttled back. Right. Let's go with £1,000. There we go. So let's not tell the aeroplane off for my poor handling abilities, but there we go. Right, yeah, so I would have expected to have to add a bit more power, like you were saying, Nathan. It's very similar to climbing with a non-turbocharged piston aircraft in a turboprop. Yeah. Normally what you have to do is add power in, unless you've got some kind of clever FADEC system that does it for you. Now, I've not read anything about this aircraft having any kind of system that compensates for altitude, where you have to kind of add power or anything like that. So, I'm not sure. Maybe the engine modelling is not quite to the sort of level of things like the King Air, which definitely does have that sort of thing implemented. Right.
I think even standard TPM does.
Yeah. Yeah, quite possibly. Right, so we're up here at 10,000 feet. Anything else we can do at 10,000 feet while we're up here, or should we just go into the general handling?
Just interested what the pressurization was set to, and what's the delta P, what's the max on there?
It looks about, just below 6, it looks like.
Okay, so King is 6.6 in the back, so pretty similar.
Yeah.
Cab average is quite nice. Is there a prop setting at all on this, or is it just a...
No, the prop is FADEC. The prop is all automatic. Yeah.
Okay.
So the prop has decided it wants to be at 2,000 RPM, so we must accept its decision. Very
good. Yeah, it's just handling it. See what we can...
let's throw it around a little bit, shall we? So first of all, let's simulate something that is a big issue with instrument flying. Now, obviously, we're on a lovely clear day today. We've got a very distinct horizon. In fact, let me get rid of that rudder trim that we had in takeoff as well. That's something else I should have probably done. So the aircraft's got a constant roll to the right at the moment. And that's because
it's good because as you accelerate, you need left-right rudder. You probably need more left rudder.
Yeah, exactly.
Quite nicely.
So there we go. She's nice and trimmed out now, flying straight and level, zero inputs regard on controls. But if, for example, we were to fly into cloud and I was getting distracted serving croissants to the passengers or whatever, and all of a sudden we sort of just gently enter something like that, maybe a little bit of rudder input, and you can see the aircraft starting to enter into a steadily increasing spiral. So I'm going to pull the throttle back a little bit so we don't immediately overspeed. Obviously, this could end up with a really severe situation. Now, obviously, in my time as a... Ooh, please don't die, please don't die. In my time as a flying... Oh, son of a...
Oh, no.
I knew it. I knew it. It's going to happen every time.
So, will it be a flight video about Kitty having a little crash? We're covered by now, everyone's fine. Tea and coffee was spilled though, and the cakes and biscuits that were used by the passengers.
Yeah, the only casualty were the cakes and croissants and things. Everyone else is fine.
It's interesting though, because I know these old turboprop Malibu model before this did have a few wing spar issues at times. I believe that a lot of the pilots that operated them were a little bit worried about flying in turbulence, especially at higher speed. They did not know what they would fall off the flight. That is unfortunate and not very recoverable. So
Yeah.
there's the one.
So
Looking at the maximum operating speed, maneuvering speed, for full control movement, so to explain maneuvering speed,
yeah,
it's
go for it.
basically the max speed you can operate full control deflection, so that's full aileron, full elevator, full rudder, without the aircraft being damaged. And the idea is that the aircraft will stall first before being damaged. And on this aircraft, it's really low, 127 knots. And for an aircraft of this type, especially when it will fly in through there a lot faster than that, it is quite low. So definitely a structural issue there somewhere.
Yeah, just sort of indicates the fact that the real aircraft is maybe quite sort of delicate, and you have to be quite aware of the fact that it's very easy to overstress it. So I was going to say, oh, that's a bit unrealistic. The fact that we were like 1 knot over the barber pole and it suddenly killed us, but maybe that's actually quite accurate to how the real aircraft is. So we're gonna let FS Reborn off a little bit with that one. I think that might be quite accurate. So I'm going to be very, very cautious with the speed now. What I was trying to do is put the aircraft into an unusual attitude there, but what we'll do is we'll try and nose high on unusual attitude. So I'm just going to pull the nose up and put the aircraft in sort of quite a high bank angle. And then I'm going to press the level mode. So what it's going to do is put the autopilot into a mode where it's just going to level the wings and put us back to straight and level again. You can see, there we go, the flight director's popped up, the autopilot's taking control, and the aircraft's now back to a nice, stable, straight and level situation. So if you're hand flying this aeroplane and you become disorientated and the aircraft is off in some weird attitude, nose high, nose low, very high angle of bank, anything like that, with the airspeed going high and heading towards the I'm going to die zone, if you hit the level button on the glare shield here, it will very nicely level you out, and that's really nicely implemented feature on here. That's just what the real aircraft has. And I think, is it an M500 that's got that automatic landing feature? Is that a TBM?
The M600 definitely has.
Right.
There's a one that's slightly up, and the TBM has the Halo mod as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, if you pilot dies, press the button, and the airplane will land itself and disable the passengers.
Yeah.
Get the pilots out of the job. That's fortunate.
So
yeah,
that's the M600, which is it's basically the same airframe with a bigger engine, isn't it? So it's a very, very similar aircraft.
So yeah, slight mod difference, but essentially it's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Talking about level one, I've flown an aircraft with level one. I believe they work in a similar way. If you took the aircraft above 45 degrees bank, also take control and level there.
Oh, interesting. Let's give it a go. So let's knock the autopilot back out again and see if go into sort of a steep turn sort of situation. No, I mean, maybe it's not modelled, or maybe the M500 is a little bit different, but I can hold 60 degrees there quite comfortably, and it's...
past 60.
Past 60. Oh, now we're getting really sporty. No, yeah, it'll let me take it past 60.
So it's not right. We might not have that vehicle. We're not, pardon me, we're not going to mark down the sim for that. We don't know if our aircraft has it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can't mark them down for something that we don't know the real aircraft has. So, I believe the 4-on-4 does it though, doesn't it?
I think so. Well, the old one doesn't, but I think the
one,
new avionics on
yeah,
model,
the fancy avionics on the simulator, the fly simware 4-on-4 does have a wing a bank angle limiter on it, which is really, really cool to see. But obviously that aeroplane's fitted with a really modern avionics suite that the original aircraft didn't have. Anyway, we're getting tangented there, although it's a very interesting tangent. So I suppose we should have a go at some steep turns then. Well, I mean, we kind of did one then, but let's have another go. So we'll have a quick look around to the left, and we'll just do a little bit more of a tame one at 45-degree angle of bank. Now I've got the yaw damper turned on, but I am having to add a little bit of rudder input, which is common for turboprops. You can never sort of treat the yaw damper like you treat the yaw damper in a jet, where you just basically give over control of the rudder to it, and that's it. I'm just going to get rid of the flight director. So in any kind of turboprop, you always have to remember that you're still in charge of the rudder, so be prepared for that.
Yeah, agreed. Also, just from my point of view, I can only hear, so we're doing a Discord at the moment, so my headphone microphone on perfect, as your comments have said before. But the sound to me of the aircraft inside so far, I think it's pretty good. Externally as well. So I think that's a bit more for me to be simulated.
Yeah, I think they've done a really good job with the sounds. I'm not a massive expert on PT6s like Nathan is, but it certainly sounds very convincing to me. We'll come out of that. So it's very easy to hold it in a 45-degree angle bank turn. It's nice and stable. I'm using the same yoke settings that I use for my Cessna 310, which I find to be quite a sort of sporty, agile aeroplane. This kind of has the same sort of handling characteristics, so I find the same yoke settings. I've got a slight sensitivity curve on there. Let's go for a 60-degree angle bank. Let's be really sporty in before we rip the wings off. But yeah, the aircraft is quite responsive, but it's also nice and stable. You can see I can hold the aircraft level or almost level at 60 degrees angle bank, no problem whatsoever, and complete a steep turn like this. So it's a good indication that the aircraft's well modelled, it's not unstable or anything like that. And I'd imagine that the real M500 is pretty much the same to fly, really. So quite happy with that. It's very, very nice. Right. Okay. So we've tried some steep turns. I think we should maybe try a stall now. So we've had one crash. Let's see if we can get into another one. So
I don't think we've had 2 crashes in one year yet.
I think 2 crashes would be a record. I think I'm going to put the fuel pumps on manual. I'm going to put the ignition on as well. So we're going to give ourselves the best possible chance of recovering from this.
Smash that like button for an extra crash.
Yeah.
They are the YouTube.
So let's see how she stalls. So what are we expecting to see here, Nathan? Pretty benign stall characteristics, do you reckon?
Yeah, generally Piper aircraft wing up fairly benign. Apart from the Tomahawk, which is beautifully unstable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's sort of developed from the Saratoga. The structure that was very benign, like kind of big fun.
Yeah, and the Saratoga is just a big Seneca, isn't it? The Seneca is a very, very
Yeah.
stable airplane. So, or rather a single-engine Seneca, not a big Seneca. I'm going to give myself a little bit of nose-up trim. That's a help. So
I imagine it's quite heavy and pitch at this point.
it is, yeah. I'm having to put a... Okay, so we're getting the stall Warner. Okay,
Just pretend I'm all forced, is that right?
there we go, at about 80 knots. So I'm going to see if I can cancel out that rate of descent to get it even slower.
Thing.
And the stall Warner, of course, is there as an indication of an oncoming stall. There we go. Oh, whoa, okay, okay. That was a bit less than benign.
Yeah.
So that was a bit more Tomahawk than Saratoga, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Good.
So let's, I mean, like we both said there, neither of us have got experience with the aircraft. So that might be accurate. That might be how the M500 stalls. I'm not going to say anything. I was maybe expecting it to be a little bit more benign than that, but we'll have another go.
To be honest though, the aircraft was it's over 2 tons of airplane. It was down at 70 odd knots when it stalled.
Yeah.
So a lot of math on a little wing. Well, that started quite well. That's been demonstrated. So on paper, looking at the airplane, I probably say that's about right.
Fair play. I shall certainly defer to your knowledge in this area, mate, because I'm nowhere near as experienced as you are with these types of airplanes. So I tell you what, let's do a configured stall. So let's get some landing gear down and some flap. Remind myself of the flap limiting speed, 168 for 10, below that.
Yeah.
135 for 20.
1830. The gear is 168 for 10.
Okay, and there's 118. So we've got full flap now. Let's just let the aircraft slow down naturally. So we're expecting the aircraft with the flap down to be stalling at a lower nose angle at a lower airspeed. Now, depending on the aircraft, this can either be more benign or less benign than the fully clean stall. So it'll be interesting to see how this works.
That's what I think. I'm more benign. What do you think?
You think more benign?
Yeah.
Well, let's see what happens then. Let's get the nose up a bit. It stalls in a really high nose attitude.
Just parallel to a lot of turboprops there.
Yeah.
I think 406 is quite a high nose attitude. a lot of, even though the power's idle, there's still quite a bit of thrust.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's gone. That's a lot more benign. So, as usual, you were right. So there was no wing drop that time. There was just the nose came down nice and gently. So, yeah, okay, fair play. That's probably a pretty accurate representation of what the aircraft's like in real life. We'll get the drag flap away, then the gear and positive climb. Come past 100 knots, we'll retract to 10 degrees. And then we'll go flat half. Okay, let's get it leveled out again. So we were going to run through an emergency procedure now, weren't we, Nathan? So we were going to have a go at an emergency gear extension. So I'm going to pop the autopilot on while we do that. So we'll just go into autopilot and heading and altitude hold. Right, if you'd like to grab the checklist for me, mate, and run through it, and I'll follow it as we go.
So, landing gear failure, Kelly.
Okay, so shall I give us a landing gear failure to start off with? Shall I find the circuit breaker and pull it wherever that is? So
yeah, there you go. So in the checklist actually, what's earlier, hydraulic power circuit breaker verify in. So yeah.
Right. So if we pull that out, there we go. Perfect. Right. So that's given us a failure then.
Also, pull the hydraulic. Pull the hydraulic control. So I think that will stop you controlling the gear as well. That's a failure.
Okay. What's that? Sorry.
The next to the circuit breaker pull.
Oh, okay. The hydraulic control.
Yeah, I think pull that one as well.
Right. Pull that as well.
I think that should give it a proper gear failure.
Right.
Failure. Battery's on, generator's on, voltage is on, that's good to know already.
Yep.
Landing gear selected cycle. Hopefully it's full gear down, that should put it down, so put it down.
Right, so let's pop that down. Yeah, so landing gear lever is now down, and we can see we're getting absolutely nothing from the landing gear itself.
Okay, so if the issue is not resolved, we could make that happen. Performing emergency landing gear extension, card 15. So, indication. One or more of the green gear indicator is not illuminated. I agree with that.
Yep.
So, airspeed 100 knots.
Oh god, right.
Requires 52 quite accurately.
100 knots, bloody hell, that's slow. Right, we're going to have to get some flap out for that, aren't we? So we're going to be like flaps 20 for 100 knots. Hopefully the autopilot will do the job for us and keep us from crashing, but we'll see. Probably do a better job than I did earlier, that's for sure. Yeah, near. Yeah, that looks to be giving us about 100, maybe just slightly above. Okay, perfect.
So, pull the hydraulic pump power circuit, which is already pulled.
Yep.
We do that as well. Landing gear selected down, which it is
done.
And emergency gear extension control pull.
Right, let's do it. So it's got a little guard over it, and then we pull that out. I can hear something.
Look outside.
There we go. You can see very slowly it's dropping down.
Just like gravity, please.
Yeah, it's just gravity extension. So we might not get the full going. Oh no, there we go. It has dropped down. I was sort of anticipating maybe we were going to be struggling. We'd have to sort of shake it into place. But there we go. We got 3 greens. Landing gear's fully down.
Gear indication of present land.
There we go. There we go. Right. So I think we're now configured for for going back into Nottingham. But given that we've been speeding towards the east coast at 100 odd knots for the last 10 minutes or so, we're quite a long way away now. So I'll tell you what, let's load in a procedure. So what we can do is we'll go to procedure, select approach, and you can see we've got a list of visual approaches for all the runways at Nottingham. So if we select visual 27 via this straight in approach waypoint here, throw some minimums in. Let's say barrow of, I don't know, let's be generous, let's say 500 feet.
Yeah.
There we go. And then we activate that. And then we ask the autopilot to go into nav mode and follow that around. What that's going to do is it's going to take us, if I, hang on, like that, and then use the cursor. So you can, if you want the cursor, by the way, on the map, you click in on the range knob, and that will give you the little cursor bar will come up, and you can use it to scroll the map around. So that's a G1000 thing, what you can do. So if we put our cursor over the top of Nottingham and then zoom in, it should zoom in right over the top of the procedure here. There we go. Right, so you can see this waypoint here called straight. So it's just made this waypoint up to give us a about a sort of, what's that looking like? 2.5. So about a 5 mile final. So it will give us a top or drop at 2.5 miles, and it will take us down a 3-degree glide slope. So this is really, really fancy. Obviously, doing this in actual instrument conditions would be somewhat questionable. But we're in a flight sim, and we're not in actual instrument conditions, so we can have a bit of fun with it today, can't we? So we're gonna see if the aircraft can fly a visual approach for us. Obviously, the way you'd use this in real life is just to give you a helping hand. You wouldn't ideally be flying this out of necessity. You'd be doing it just as a little bit of extra guidance, maybe into an airport you're not all that familiar with. So you can pop that in and make an approach for you. So there we go. I tell you what, Nathan, shall we hoik the gear up, because we've got about 60.
So circuit breaks back in, and that back in.
So that back in, put the guard back up, pop the circuit breakers back in, and we should be able to. There we go. Okay, gear up, lights out. So let's approach as we would do at a more sort of normal speed. So
So back to talk now. Let's speed back up.
Get the torque back up. Let us speed up.
Probably we'll talk about how actually the max power according to very well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I know obviously it's not an approved approach. The approach mode give you a glide or mode?
It should do, yeah. So the approach mode should fly it full 3D, which is the magic of the modern Garmin systems, which is even more reason why you shouldn't be relying on it too much, because it's almost too good. Get yourself into some big trouble if you try and do it too much.
Let's send down to 2,000 feet, we capture that approach mode, try and configure it on a final approach.
Yeah. So you can see the aircraft's quite easily going into the yellow here with only 1,000 foot-pound set. So the main issue really when you're flying at altitudes like this is keeping the speed under control. So you've got to go for a really sort of middling power setting. You can see we've got a 185 indicator there, which is almost 200 knots true.
Also on a warm day, it'd be far too probably as well.
Yeah. So on a sunny day down at this altitude, it's usually pretty rough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, so you can see here it's made a little topper descent for us. So when that comes in, I should be able to put it in. Have we got a VNAV mode?
The approach mode.
Got an approach mode, but that's only going to work on final approach, I think. Oh, we've got VNAV here. Okay, so if I arm VNAV and then take it down to giving us a topper drop of 1,700 near enough. So if I pre-select that.
Look at the white glide path. There you go, VNAV 3.
There we go, VNAV path.
We're bringing power back to 500 pounds.
About 500 was that, sorry?
Yeah, I think so. See what happens after that.
There we go. So you can see the little purple caret on the vertical speed indicator, which is showing you the target rate of descent. And we've also got almost like a glide slope indicator on here, which is giving us the vertical profile. So all of you guys who fly airliners in flight sim, you'll know your VNAV profile bar is really important in a jet, because obviously you're always fighting with the aircraft to try and get it to descend. In a turboprop it's less important because you've got really good speed control. Case in point, so if I was to pull the power back now, you can see that the speed is going to start washing off pretty quickly because we've got this huge brake sitting on the nose of the aeroplane. So going down and slowing down in a turboprop isn't so much of a problem. But it's still really useful to have this kind of vertical planning function in the aircraft. It makes it really easy to decide when you're going to descend, but you can still use your old school 3 times stable, 3 times your height in distance is when you should start descending, roughly.
Yep.
Okay, so we're about to cross that waypoint.
I only guess that's £300 per talk.
300, right, okay.
That's going to bring you below your 168.
Allows us to get the gear out.
Back gear. And I think, let's try it. A lot of turboprops there's a talk where you literally do that, you forget about it, set the final load. Let's go flat down,
Okay.
gear down.
Flat gear, and let's arm the approach as well. So there we go. Yeah, I've armed it, but I think I was a little bit late. I'm just going to go into VS and VS us down a little bit until we catch the profile. So we're intercepting the glide path from above, so as the glide path comes into the middle, approach mode should come in. So we've got approach arms. Yeah, should be. There we go, glide path's now active. So you can see the nose is pitching up now to maintain the glide path.
Like a flap 20 now.
Yeah, flap 20 coming in. Get the landing lights on. We should probably put ignition and pumps into manual as well. Go.
Flap full.
Flap.
That's £300 a talk. Probably keep it quite nicely with the short final. Yeah, if we configure nicely, if you might think guys on ILS, I think around about 280 to £300 a talk, the configuration speed, and that'll give you a nice. Got all the flaps in. It could be nice speed to settle on the final approach.
Yeah. Now I think from memory, your VREF is about 85 because I think it's about the same as the DA42, which I found quite funny. So we'll go for 85.
The autopilot should just engage below 100 knots apparently. That's fine.
Right.
Airspeed 85 knots.
85. There we go. So there we go. We'll cut the autopilot.
And your damper as well.
Get rid of the yaw damper as well.
Exciting.
Beautiful. You can see aircraft's lovely and stable in this config. No problem whatsoever. Down onto the, if there were touchdown markers, we'd be going straight for them. Just bring the nose up a little bit. Not too much though, you don't want to float. There we go. Down we go. Flaps. Power. Just remember when you're doing a touch and go like this, your rudder trim isn't set for takeoff like it would be normally, so remember to give it a fair old right boot. And away we go. I suppose I should probably hit Toga to give the, is that going to give the flight director? There we go, so the flight director is going to pitch up and give us some decent guidance now. In fact, I can probably get rid of that given we're going to be flying some circuits. So I think that was pretty impressive, don't you, Nathan?
That's really good. Yeah, no crashes here. And also, for the people at home, I think sound-wise, electrical gear is quite aircraft, and I know with electrical gear and that sounds pretty good on top as well. So
Yeah.
if you realistic geeks out there, I think they've done a really good job of it.
Awesome. Yeah, it's the sound is, they've definitely done an excellent job with the sound. I'm going to go around the back of Tolleton. Give our friend at Tolleton Hall a wide berth. Right. Now you can see we're doing about 120 knots, which is pretty sporty for a little circuit like Nottingham. So I'm going to see if I can get the speed down a bit. In fact, I'm going to go flaps 10 now. And we'll fly the circuit with flaps 10.
Check view.
In fact, that's flaps 20, isn't it? There's flaps 10.
Yeah. think you went around with about 10.
Yeah,
Perfectly
yeah.
fine for airplane.
So I didn't.
I think in reality, you'd probably go around about 20, short for takeoff.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah.
You get rid of the drag flap and away you go again.
Right, so we'll do a very abbreviated before landing checklist. So brakes pressurised, the gear can come down now. Undercarriage, we'll wait for 3 greens.
I've used that about 20 now,
Yep.
30%, and again, around about 300 pounds of torque, that should work out quite nicely again.
Okay, let's try and find that 300 foot-pounds again. We're going to go around the back of Cock Groove, I think. We'll work up to flying the full Nottingham circuit. We'll give ourselves a little bit more room to start off with. Slightly higher and slightly wider than we'd normally be when flying a circuit at this airfield. But for a larger, faster aeroplane like this, you could be forgiven, unless you were very familiar with the field. I don't know about you, Nathan. I've not flown at Nottingham for about 5 or 6 years now, so...
It's about a year and a half, 2 years for me, probably. I'm staying hill now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, most of my light aircraft flying was done from elsewhere, although I did start my instructional career at Nottingham. And,
that's where we met.
Yeah, yeah. Some fond memories at Nottingham.
Years ago now.
Yeah. It's a good little airfield, isn't it? I'll have to go back there at some point.
But generally, aircraft like this for everybody at home, I'd probably configure full flat. I don't know if you agree, Kitty. We all add the final approach.
Okay, so we're coming around the corner. Let's go fully configured now. It's quite a big balloon off the flaps, but that's pretty understandable.
Yeah.
We left that turn a little bit late there. Tell you what, it's missing. I'd like to have a trend vector for the flight path vector on the on here. Okay, we'll get back onto final approach. We're not too far off the centre line. That centre pillar in the windscreen is doing me no good at the moment. Right, so fully configured. Speed's a little fast, but we're on the window, we're on the glide path, ignition's on, lights are on, gears down, flaps are set.
And 2024, I've been promising this for a while. I will do a video when I'm flying, and Kitty can critique my flying for a change. I'll make sure what happens this year.
He's been saying that for a long time. I think we need to make sure he sure he does it this year.
This year, I will.
We need some role reversal, because it's usually you getting to laugh at my rubbish skills. I want to see how an actual pro does it. Right. So coming over the threshold, and need to make sure you don't sort of over pitch it. There we go. We'll try flaps 20 this time. Get the power in. Fair bit of right pedal. Just be prepared for that. Rotate pretty much straight away. Positive climb, gears come out. Yeah, it's a bit easier when you use flap 20.
Yeah.
Dare we try a flapless approach?
Check.
Oh, let's go for it.
So we'll go flaps 10. Now, normally that would be a big no-no at a short field like Nottingham, wouldn't it? But in an emergency, sometimes you just have to do these things.
Let's demonstrate that everywhere else is foggy, pop nothing, and you have to fail.
Yeah, exactly. Sounds like a bit of a ridiculous situation, but it could happen.
Let's see if there's a checklist for that.
Yeah.
I'll put through now. Yes, there is.
Oh, okay.
So, normal procedure, base check, we know it's failed, so we're not going to go through that. But VREF 100 knots.
Okay. So all the same as before, but with a VREF of 100 knots. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're on a downwind. I've flown it a bit more like a proper Nottingham circuit this time, so we'll go in maximum effort this time. Gears coming down below 168. Let's get the aircraft.
Oh,
Yeah, flaps are up.
on 10 degrees in a minute.
Oh yeah, 10 degrees. There we go. Right,
And like any other turboprop, fly with a little bit of power, and we do the approach, so this is for everyone at home as well.
Yep.
Keep 100 knots with the power, and as the main wheels push on the deck, power idle.
Right.
That's basically the way to do it in a turbo seems to be. So fly your 100 knots to the ground. As soon as the main wheels touch down, in like a nose high attitude, then no flare required, should be, and power idle.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right to me. Let's get that speed in the window because we're a touch fast here. Actually struggling to slow it down a bit here. Oh my god. Okay, we're 20 knots fast. Maybe the short approach was not the thing to do.
No, probably not. Very slippy.
We'll see. So the prop should slow us down. The prop is slowing us down now, but it might not be slow enough by the time we come across the thresholds. This is going to be a very fast touchdown, so we might just bounce straight back into the air, but let's see what happens. There we go. I'll take it. Straight back up again. So that's how not to do it, but if you had to, whatever reason, fly a really, really tight circuit, I think you could be forgiven for being a little bit off the ideal speed.
Absolutely.
Right, so we've done a flapless, we've done a full flap. I guess the only thing left to do is a glide approach, isn't it? Dare we do a glide approach?
Let's do a glide approach and flapless.
Oh my god, right, okay. I don't know whether I want to be further away or closer in for this one.
Ooh, I don't know. You kite out there.
Okay, let's level off here. I'll tell you what, we'll try to do flapless, but if it looks like we're going long, I'm going to use the flaps, okay?
Yeah, makes sense, yeah.
Alright, so brakes pressurised, undercarriage will be under for...
Get to the corner of Cotgrave and pull your power right back and see what happens.
See what happens, right, okay.
Take the gear whenever you feel ready for it.
So, the gear's reasonably draggy, but I didn't sort of feel like it was really massively slowing us down last time, so I'm going to pretty much take...
Either. It's
Yeah.
quite short gear.
Yeah, it is. It's quite small, so I guess the gear's not mega draggy on this airplane. Right, so there's Cotgrave just coming under us now. So we'll go idle. I'm going to go gear down straight away.
As we put the gear down too early.
Do you reckon?
I don't know. Prop is quite draggy. I'll probably get you turned tighter.
Yeah.
I guess.
It's quite heavily framed, the cockpit, so it's quite tricky for...
Aim at the numbers now. You should make it.
Yeah, that's looking alright, actually. Just on the quick side, actually.
Yeah. Say the flat maybe. I'll go flat 20 for now.
Yeah, okay, let's give it some flap then. Let's make sure we can actually land this.
I'll go flat full.
Yeah, full flap now.
A lot of inertia, haven't you?
Yeah, that's the other thing as well. We've got quite a lot of weight on board, so it's keeping the speed high, so that's why the prop isn't really helping us all that much. This is looking alright though. In we come, in we come, in we come. That'll do. On the brakes, reverser.
Now when it's in reverse, is it quite hard to control on the pedal?
What's that, sorry?
Is it quite hard to control on the pedal?
No, it's alright actually. It's fairly stable.
So on the TPM, a lot of airflow going off. I find that it is quite hard to control.
Right.
If you're landing on the reverse, so it'd be quite hard for the flight itself to control that. So you can see why they could have left it off. It's interesting to see if it was on there or not.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of wizardry and issues when you've got the airflow of the tail when you've got reverse seat. So
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Bit of an interesting sort of situation. It's with having a reversible propeller on a single engine aeroplane, isn't it? It's quite some strange aerodynamic effects that happen. Right, so we're off the runway. We can get the ignition and the pumps off. No. tell you what, flying one of these single pilot, the workload.
It's not too bad.
I mean, yeah, I'm talking to someone here that flies a King Air single pilot, so I suppose to you it's nothing, but...
Occasionally, yeah. I do most sporty crew, but I do occasional single pilot, and it's really good fun.
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance to do it, because it is a real handful on your own.
I'd imagine.
Really enjoy it. Don't tell my FOs that the first single pilot. Actually, I do like multi-crew involved, to be honest. There's
you get the best of both worlds, really, don't you?
long days. Long days, it's really useful.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the occasional short flight single pilot is hilariously fun to do.
I don't think I've got my my knockoff Nottingham scenery installed at the moment, so we've got default Nottingham right now.
Okay.
Which has got a really fancy looking control tower, which looks absolutely nothing like the real one.
Like the Western.
Yeah. Right, swing it round onto the line, and then I'll have an after landing and a shutdown checklist, if you would please, sir.
Okay.
Right.
So, after landing, fuel pumps to auto, apparently.
Oh, okay. Fuel pumps are auto.
Ignition off.
Ignition's off.
P2 heat off.
Pitot heat's off.
Landing taxi lights out right.
Yeah, landing lights off, taxi lights are off now.
Strobe lights off.
Strobe lights off.
Weather radar standby. Boil the ground cruise up.
Yeah, we didn't have weather radar anyway, so we're all good.
That's reacted.
Yeah, it's checked.
And shut down parking brake set.
Yep.
Cabin comforts are off.
Okay, so cabin comfort goes off. In fact, hang
Power
on.
levers idle.
Ooh, what's that not?
Sorry?
Oh, there we go.
No.
Power levers idle. Yep.
Cabin climate controlled off.
Okay, so that's our air conditioning coming off like that. Yep.
Fuel pump switched off.
Fuel pump off.
Avionics off.
Avionics off.
Generator and alternator switched off.
Gen and alternator off.
ITC stabilised for 2 minutes at idle, which we're
Yeah,
going to
it's
assume we've done.
pretty stable for a while.
Lever to cut off and feather.
Ignition lever to cut off and feather.
Check the CAS message comes up with feather. It should do.
Is it going to do it?
So it's feathering. Oil pressure.
Feather, there we go.
Yeah, perfect. That's very good. Bleeder out.
Pull the bleeder.
Exterior lighting switches off.
Okay, everything's off apart from the nav lights. We'll leave the nav lights because we're still under battery power.
Note of fuel remaining and battery switch off. Wheel chocks in.
Right, we've got loads of fuel remaining, so that's good for whoever's going to fly it next. Batteries coming off, nav lights coming off. Get the iPad back and get the chocks in and the door open, I guess. And the red carpet, of course, because we need that for us, because we're VIPs.
Absolutely.
There we go. Beautiful. Right, okay, so here we are on the ground at Tolton. The aeroplane's cooled down nicely now. We've all recovered from our exciting adventures glide approaching a turboprop. And we're in a good position now, I think, to come to a conclusion about the aircraft. Don't you agree, Nathan?
Absolutely agree. Really pleased with it, to be honest. So this is literally my first viewing. A few of the other videos I got a little time to have a play and have a look beforehand, but I've come to it completely cold and dark, which is pardon the pun. But I think it looks visually stunning. Well happy to give it 9 out of 10. I've not flown this type of aircraft. I've worked around them. I've fueled them. I've pulled them in and out of a hangar. I've looked around them at shows. I've dribbled over them because I've been really excited to fly one, and I don't want if I won the lottery. But no, so I think I'm well happy to give it a 9 out of 10 for what I can see from Discord. Looks really good.
Yeah.
Internally as well.
We'll go through all the different bits like that we sort of we've broken it down as we normally do into all the different elements. So the first big positive that we sort of agreed on was that the external and interior and exterior model of the aeroplane are really very, very good. The interior especially, so I'll give you a little tour of the interior. You see the cushions on the floor here. Little placards in the window there. The kick plate on the door, and you can even see scuff marks on the kick plate here from people getting in and out. I mean, that's really well made. I mean, you can see one of the points I would say, like I said in the hangar, these logos all say FS Reborn. When in the real aircraft it says Piper. Now there's a mod on fs.to which changes all these to the proper Piper logos, but I don't blame FS Reborn for putting their logo here. It might be a copyright issue with Piper. Maybe they've not sort of received permission from Piper to use their logos or whatever it is.
Absolutely. On a charter operator or aircraft operator, may even put their own name or stamp in there anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not a complete representation of a real airplane.
No, so it's certainly not something we can really pull them down for. So the interior is absolutely fantastic. The one thing, when we were discussing the interior, that I could say they could improve on is you can see the food that you're serving to the passengers, but you can't see the passengers. I would love to see some passengers sitting back here, and I think in a future update, if the FS Reborn guys are out there watching this, I would really appreciate seeing some little animated passengers back here. That would be really cool, assuming it doesn't completely tank your FPS, of course.
Also, you can't smell the coffee.
Exactly, yeah. Absolutely.
As pilots, we always want to smell, taste any free coffee going. So
it's the
that's
only
a
thing
shame.
that keeps us alive most of the time, isn't it? Double
absolutely.
espressos. You just live on double espressos. Right. Exterior model, like we said, absolutely fantastic. Some real highlights are the detail in the landing gear and the tyres. The exhausts, Nathan, you were saying, look really good, don't they?
Yeah, there's just shape right. I say in the landing gear as well. In the landing gear doors on the nose, those vents are quite familiar to a P46 if you've seen them in the air before. Little details I think look really good. Aerials in the right place, from what I remember. External lights, rivets, screws, all look really good.
Yeah, the light units are fantastic. These little LEDs here, so highly detailed. And I'm a big sucker for lights in flight simulator airplanes. I think so many of them get it wrong. And these guys, FS Reborn, have got it absolutely spot on, like the LED representation of the LED lights, because they're really sort of clear and bright on the real thing. And I think they've done a great job of representing that. One area where we both agreed they perhaps could improve a little bit is just these boots, the de-icing boots here. Now they do inflate and deflate, so you can actually see them working when you've got the anti-icing, airframe anti-icing system turned on. But normally with boots, what you see is lots of little individual cells, so it's not one big inflatable bag. It's actually made up of lots of little long sausages, like rubber sausages basically. And when you hit the airframe de-icing button, what you'll see is a bunch of ridges. Now, for example, the Cessna 414, if you go and watch our video of that aircraft, it has absolutely spot-on looking de-icing boots. It's not only is it kind of one big balloon that inflates, it's also the actual material of the boot is just a little bit too glossy. Now, Nathan, who's been around the aeroplanes like these a lot more than I have, you were saying that sometimes when they're sort of very brand new, you do see them quite shiny like this, weren't you?
Yeah, but never reflective. So
Yeah.
it look like if you imagine a tyre that's been tyre glossed after cleaning, it'll look like that, but never almost like glass light reflective like in this sim. So we've got to mark them down a little bit for that, but nothing too bad. And I absolutely will be calling them rubber sausages from now on. I really like that term. So it's definitely a new thing for my vocabulary, which is very limited.
I'm just grasping at straws here to try and describe them, but that's the best thing I could come up with. Yeah, so that's the only thing I could really mark them down for. Maybe a little bit more weathering, maybe a few oil streaks here and there, just to kind of make it look a little bit more used. I mean, granted, you know, if you've got an airplane like this, it's going to set you back the best part of, you know, over $1 million, isn't it, to buy one of these? Easily over $1 million.
$3 million,
Yeah. So you're probably not the kind of person who wants to see them multi-million-dollar airplane dirty. So you're probably going to be cleaning it or getting someone to clean it for you quite regularly. But maybe
we get the P6 brown stain. So from the exhaust backwards, so along that centre line of the aircraft, you'll have like a slight brown all the way down the side of the airplane. That's a standard thing for any turboprop. So that white would be in the middle, a little bit brownish. You have to get it cleaned every couple of weeks or so. Just naturally, as the fuel's burnt, you get the exhaust.
Yeah, it's just the soot from the kerosene being burnt, isn't it? So you inevitably get sort of dark marks down the aircraft.
We've not seen that yet in the flight sim video, have we, for other turboprop? So that'd be really cool to see going forward.
It would,
Future,
yeah.
someone to try and model that a
The
little
the
bit.
only aircraft that's got a cleaning function at the moment has been the 310. So I'd really like to see that on some more FS add-on aircraft. If any developers are watching, that'd be a really cool feature to see. And Nathan, like you say, you know, some turboprop specific things like the exhaust staining down the side of the aircraft would be really, really good. But that's the only thing we can pull them up for. So we both agreed that we were going to go for a 9 out of 10 score for the exterior and interior model, weren't we? So it's pretty much perfect. It's about there, isn't it?
Excuse me, absolutely, yeah.
Right, so the next item I've got on here is systems. So actually, while we were sat here discussing what kind of marks we were going to give this aircraft, I think that this score has gone up while we were sat here playing with the aircraft, because we had to fire the engine up, didn't we, to have a go at the de-icing boots and things like that and check what they looked like and all that kind of stuff. And we actually managed to hot start the aircraft by doing 2 starts in close succession.
We basically generator failed because you got to let the generator cool between starts, and the generator basically packed up because we started it twice in a row quite quickly. Normally, the generator cycle, it'd be starter on for 30 seconds, at least 60 seconds off. But you can do another start, 30 seconds on, 60 seconds off, and after the third start of 30 seconds, you need to give the aircraft 30 minutes off to cool, because the starters, they actually draw in 300 amps continuously and 1,000 amps for like 3 or 4 seconds. So there's a lot of power in something the size of, I don't know, a big coffee jar at that time. So you got to let them cool down, especially on a hot day. So I think that modelling wise is really good.
Yeah, yeah. I think they've obviously gone to a huge amount of effort to get the start sequence especially absolutely spot on. The handling of the engine seems really realistic. It just feels like you're handling an actual sort of turboprop rather than just, you know, a variable resistor that provides power. So I think they've done a fantastic job with that. The one area that we pulled them up is that ram rise on takeoff. Now, obviously, assuming that there's not some kind of computer system that automatically feeds power in as you're going down the runway to compensate for that. But, I mean, the aircraft isn't FADEC, so I don't understand how it would be able to do that. So assuming that, you know, it is just a manually controlled PT6, we would be expecting to see some kind of ram rise, wouldn't we, on the takeoff roll?
Yeah, absolutely. So normally about 100 pound of torque, up to about 80 knots. So we saw none of that on the 2 takeoffs we did, because obviously after the incident and crash and NTSB report, we had to go back again to try it again.
Of course, yeah. So we had 2 cracks at it, didn't we? So and both times we didn't notice any kind of ram rise. So that would be the one big downfall of the system so far. Other than that, I mean, the avionics are fantastic. You saw the wings level function works absolutely perfectly like it should do. The G1000 has got loads of great features on it, just like it has in real life. You can do all sorts of stuff. You can also paint holds into it and things like that, and all sorts of different hold entries and different radials you can hold in your current position, or you can take up an established procedure hold. So there's loads and loads of stuff you can do with the avionics on the aircraft, which is just what you can do in the real thing. Just a few tiny little niggles, like you know, it not auto-populating the location of the aircraft and things like that. But that's just something in Microsoft Flight Simulator that they need to work out, really, because that's more of a working title G1000 issue than a M500 issue. So as far as we're concerned, we're quite happy to give the systems 9 out of 10 for that, aren't we? Really?
Definitely, yeah, 100%.
Right. So the next item I've got on the list is the flight dynamics. So this is something obviously you're going to struggle to have an input on, Nathan, but you've been watching as best you can, haven't you?
I have, yeah. And from what I can see, I've not flown it, but I'll trust Kit's opinion on this because we've done a lot of videos together now. From what I've seen, I think it looks pretty damn good. To be completely honest, I think it's a really good representation of a single engine turboprop. From what I've seen flown and seen in Flight Simulator before, I don't think they could have really done a better job. The small mark against them is on landing, on the last landing. If you put reverse in, you will get a bit of flutter on the rudder as you brake in, which wasn't modelled. To be honest, that's not a bad thing for a simulator point of view, because it'd be really hard to control, especially on my Satec rudder pedals. So I don't think it's horrendous of not put that in there, but just for complete autism realism mode, it's a bit of a downside. But hey, I don't think it's too bad, to be honest. I'm well happy to give it a 9 out of 10 flight dynamics for what I've seen. Even 10 out of 10, what I've been really nitpicky.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the proviso that I'm quite lucky to have a really good flight control system, so I've got the Honeycomb Alpha yoke, which tends to flatter pretty much everything if you have it set up correctly. So I'm using the same, as I mentioned when we were flying, I'm using the same yoke setup that I use for the Cessna 310. And certainly in terms of inertia and responsiveness, it feels really nice. One of the things you really notice in this aircraft is that your power setting has a significant effect on how effective the elevator is. Because obviously you've got so much power and so much prop wash coming past the tailplane that it's going to have a significant effect on how much elevator deflection is required to achieve a certain rate of change in pitch. So you really notice that on this aircraft. At higher power settings, higher speeds, it's quite twitchy, quite sensitive. You need to be quite gentle on the controls. At lower power settings, at lower airspeeds, as we were flying the circuits, it felt quite sort of slushy, which is exactly what I'd expect out of the real aircraft. So that's something that you really notice on this aeroplane if you do a lot of hand flying. And why wouldn't you? Because it's such a great aeroplane to hand fly. It does have a very effective autopilot, as we demonstrated, or at least I hope we demonstrated. We could fly that 3D approach all the way down to quite a low altitude on the autopilot, and it handled that very, very nicely. But if you are a fan of hand flying your airplanes in the sim, and why wouldn't you be, this is certainly one of the ones for you. So yeah, 9 out of 10, 100% agree with that one. Yeah. Right, so the next thing we've got is the other bits, the little extras. So this airplane, as many aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator now, have got lots of little extra fancy features that just serve to increase the realism and the immersion and the effects of actually flying an aeroplane like this in real life. And I think they've really gone above and beyond in this aeroplane, haven't they? Really, there's some features that we've never even seen on anything in Flight Sim so far.
No, I really like the lovely coffee. Really like that. Like the maintenance functions. Love the fact where you fry the start generator, which is really good and shows that they've put a lot of thought into that. And all the systems as well. I think the iPad's quite intuitive, especially if you're fairly new to Flight Simulator, or at least have been around it a while. I think there's something for everyone, to be honest, in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'd go as far to say as the maintenance system in this aeroplane is about as good as we've seen. The command sheet obviously is really, really good in that respect. But obviously the command sheet is a much less complicated aeroplane, so there's much less for them to include in the maintenance system of the aeroplane. This is a more complex aircraft, so it's got a lot more stuff on it. So I wouldn't say it's a more in-depth maintenance system than the command sheet, but there's more to it just because of the nature of the aeroplane. In terms of looking after the passengers, like Nathan was saying, with the coffee and snacks in the back and things like that, I've not seen that on any other Flight Sim aeroplane. That is really a unique feature, and it's something that for a small executive aeroplane like this one, it's something you'd have to consider. I mean, if you were an owner sat in the back of your £3 million or whatever turboprop, you'd probably expect to be kept pretty comfy, and you'd probably have somebody making sure you were comfy back there in the cabin. So yeah, I really like that. It's really immersive. It's a lot of fun to sort of keep the cabin in the good temperature and keep the passengers happy and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, really enjoy that. I think they've gone well above and beyond on that one. So I can't really say anything bad about that. It's a 10 out of 10 from me.
Absolutely same. And just for me as well, if any of you do have the money to charter a King Air or an aircraft like this, if you do leave a croissant, don't worry, the pilots will clean them up no problem after the flight. So any food and snacks you leave will happily hoover up behind you.
Yeah, I mean, all I can say, mate, is if you're getting food anywhere near your aeroplane, I'm incredibly jealous, because as a cargo pilot, the best we get is a bottle of water. So
yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's the other stuff. Now, as always, we've done our little performance, and hopefully you've seen the performance graphs when I put them on the screen for you. As far as I can tell, the performance is about 99% there. It's maybe a little bit too effective in the climb. It's a little bit fast in the climb, but other than that, the cruise speed is spot on. There's a nice amount of prop drag from the aircraft. You could see we were kind of struggling to slow down a little bit, and that's mostly just because of the weight of the aircraft. So if you fill the aircraft up with enough fuel, enough passengers, you're going to struggle to slow down even with a big brake sat on the front of the plane. So it was really nice to see that. They've obviously gone to some work with the physics and to make it sort of follow book figures. So I'm quite pleased with that. You got any input on that side, Nathan?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And if you play around, the Master Balance is a great aircraft. You know, it's got 6 seats, like a lot of airplanes like this type. It's only really a 4-seater as such. So you'd have a pilot of maybe 3 passengers or maybe 4 passengers maximum. You can't normally fill all the seats and go anywhere really far. And that's pretty representative of what we've seen on the Master Balance in the start of the video as well.
Awesome. So yeah, performance, I'm just going to say 9 out of 10 for that. I don't know if you agree with that, Nathan?
Yeah, completely agree.
Couple more things to cover, so we'll save the best till last, but the next thing I'm going to just quickly mention is the manual. I think the documentation is really, really good, and that's something that a lot of developers seem to forget or skimp out on or what have you. They don't really write a manual that's that explains the aircraft effectively enough. But I think what FS Reborn have done with the manual, because I do believe they're quite a small developer, sort of well, if they're not a one-person outfit, there's certainly only a few people. They're not a big sort of developer like PMDG or Just Flight or whatever. But they've done a great job at making some documentation. They've put performance graphs in the manual, which is always fantastic to see, certainly for us going out and checking the performance figures match up. There's all sorts of systems descriptions, there's tutorials, there's all sorts of different bits in there. So as far as I'm concerned, the manual is really, really good, and that's another reason why you should certainly consider this aeroplane.
Definitely, and it's readable. It's not too over the top either. It is a flight to the end of the day. Some people do want a really overcomplicated manual. You don't want a full type rating to fly some flights and have a good time. 148 pages is well enough, and you don't need to read all of it to fly it either. You can just dip in and out of what you want. Just use a search function. I think it's really good.
Awesome. And the last one that we both agree is probably the best feature of this aeroplane, really, is the sound.
Yeah.
I've not flown one of these, but I've sort of been around on the ground at GA airfields where aircraft like this have been taxiing around. So you sort of get a sense of what they sound like, and listening to this aircraft start up and taxi round and take off, honestly, you can almost smell the jet fuel from the thing taxiing around. It's
Absolutely.
so good. The startup sounds are spot on. You can sort of hear the ignition clicking away. Then as the fuel goes in, you can hear it light off. It is absolutely brilliant, and you can see all sorts of other systems and things like that all have their own sort of distinct sounds to them. Even sort of pulling circuit breakers and things like that all have a distinctive sound, which you can tell they've obviously gone into a real aircraft and recorded from the real thing. So I really can't praise them high enough for the sound model. Can you, Nathan?
Yeah, 100%. 10 out of 10 for sound, inside, outside. I think it's so good, it's safe to say a blind man could fly it. That's how good the sound is. That's what I think.
Just fly it from sound alone, yeah.
Sound alone, 100%. Yeah, it's really good. I've spent a lot of time around P6s, years and years and years. External, even though this is not part of the sound, watching the prop slow down and start up in sequence, that looks about right. We've not seen that model very well before. Love it. I think it's really, really good.
Yeah, and something else with the prop as well, as the prop is running down, it has that sort of like I don't know, like that sort of noise as it.
Yeah, you can basically hear it going into feather and hear the wind taking into effect. Yeah, really, really good.
You can hear the prop sort of paddling the air around, can't you, as it slows down, which is so good. So
it's slightly louder probably than in real life, but I'm not going to give it any like paddling sound. I don't want to give it any discreditation because at least I've tried to paddle it, and I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, they've definitely gone to a lot of effort with that. So the sound, I can't really give them anything else other than 10 out of 10 for that. Can you, Nathan?
No, not at all. Really good.
Right. So overall conclusion. So do I think this is worth the money? Okay. So overall, do we think this aircraft is worth the money? Well, first of all, it's about $32, $32.99. It's only available on the Microsoft Store. And personally, I think for something of this level of detail, with this level of systems depth, with the sound modelling, with the visual model, I think that it's an absolute steal for that kind of price, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I think comparing it to other aircraft of similar types and similar detail, they've not skimped out on anything really. They've done spent a lot of time, a lot of work. I think it's you go right ahead and buy it because I think it's well worth the money. If this is the sort of airplane you want, I think you'll have a lot of good time and effort from what was it, £26? I think it worked out to the exchange rate right now.
Yeah, about £26 current exchange rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if you are interested in light aircraft in general, or in turboprops, or even if you are sort of interested in maybe trying one out, this is certainly a great aircraft to give it a go, and it's not going to set you back a huge amount of money. So I can certainly recommend it. Can you, Nathan?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, also for people who are about to fly this type of airplane, if you're about to do a class rating or a rating in the States on it, I think it's a really good training for coming up for your sim sessions. If you already fly it as well, we'll have to try and ask some people if people have flown this type. But yeah, really, really good.
Absolutely. And if any of you have flown this type, please stick in the comments what you think of it, because it'd be really interesting to know if there are any M500 pilots out there.
Yeah.
Give us your opinion. Right. So I think that's about it, isn't it? So if you did enjoy the video and you watched it all the way through, please consider dropping a like, hitting that subscribe button, and leaving us a comment or something like that, because it helps us out with the algorithm. And from the both of us, Nathan and myself, hopefully I'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. And apologies for my cold and man flu in the background. I'll try and do better next time. And we're still trying to work on the sound for myself. Still doing it over Discord and having a few teething issues. So any comments, do apologise, and I will keep apologising as we go along.
Thank you, guys. Bye.